The Thin Blue Line uses the interview as its primary means of communication. The documentarian Errol Morris uses the interviews from many different people associated with the murder case of Robert Wood and invites them to provide their unique testimony. Oftentimes, these testimonies contradict one another. To further understand the use of interviews in documentaries, we can turn to the article written by Ledger Grindin titled Poetics of the Documentary Film Interview. In this piece, Grindin writes about the political tradition of the interview, which is used to seek out authorities who can speak from a position of knowledge, and also the verite approach, which uses the interview to reveal or to expose things to the viewer. From my understanding of these two approaches, I'd argue that Morris uses both the political tradition by interviewing people who were directly involved in the case, and also the verite approach by structuring the interviews in such a way to the audience where crucial information would then be revealed over time. The interviews that Morris used created the characters in the narrative by letting them express themselves fully as two-dimensional people. They never came across like they were under contract, having to speak about specific events in a structured manner. Yes, they gave their view on the murder case, but then they also were allowed to express themselves fully, thus letting the viewer then understand these interviewees as fully developed characters in a structured narrative. A good example of this is when the credibility of the eyewitnesses would be criticized by other testimonial interviews. Errol Morris uses the interview in this narrative to paint a narrative of the fallout of the murder of Robert Wood. Grindin writes of the structure of the interview process that Morris used, stating that Morris discredits the testimonials of less believable witnesses by cutting away from the interviews of witnesses against Randall Adams to silly, low-budget Hollywood films, thus discrediting their testimony. I found the use of interviews successful in getting me to think more critically about the subject. I found the interviews to be most compelling once contradictory narratives were established, and it was clear beyond a shadow of a doubt that Adams was not the murderer. At that point, once the audience knew that, I found it to become more suspenseful, leaving me to wonder what would happen to Randall Adams in the end and what the final outcome of the film would turn out to be.